What's going on, guys? So week one of college football is almost over. Really only got the Virginia Tech Ohio State game left tomorrow night. So I wanted to go ahead and do my top 25 after week one. This is all assuming that Ohio State wins tomorrow. That's, again, going along with my predictions, and this is my predictions for top 25. I wouldn't say my predictions for AP top 25, but just my overall top 25 after week one. So I'll go ahead and start with 25 Mississippi State, 24 Arizona State, 23 Boise State, 22 Arizona, 21 Missouri, 20 Texas A&M, 19 Tennessee, 18 Oklahoma, 17 Arkansas, 16 Ole Miss, 15 Georgia Tech, 14 LSU, 13 UCLA, 12 Clemson, 11 Notre Dame, 10 Florida State, 9 Georgia, 8 Oregon, 7 USC, 6 Auburn, 5 Michigan State, 4 Baylor, 3 TCU, 2 Alabama, and then 1 Ohio State. So just go over a couple things from our rankings right quick. So not a whole lot of changes this week, just the amount, pretty much the amount you'd expect out of week one. So a few things that did surprise, though, is Texas A&M looked very good in their game. Their defense actually came up pretty big. The defense is looking a lot better, or massively improved. Myles Garrett looked good coming off the edge. Kyler Murray looked pretty good when he was playing. I know Trey Carson also looked really good. So A&M's looking like they will contend in the SEC West. It is a little early to tell, especially with how deep that division is. But A&M definitely had a good solid showing early. Mississippi State, rough start in the first half, but ended up pulling it together in the second half against Southern Miss. Again, another great effort by Dak Prescott. Looks like he'll be a Heisman contender again this year. Arizona State, like I said, not a terrible game against A&M, but just didn't look as good as a lot of people expected him to be. Berkovici didn't look great. DJ Foster didn't have a huge impact on the game. A&M was able to contain him pretty good. So it looks like it might be a long year for Arizona State in the Pac-12 South. Boise State, tough game against Washington. Barely pulled it out. Fun game to watch, but they did look a little bit sluggish. Arizona had a tough time with UTSA, a lot like last year. They managed to pull out a 10-point victory, 42-32. Now, the biggest thing with this game is Scooby Wright looks like he'll be out for at least a month, which, you guys know anything about Scooby Wright in Arizona, he is the heart and soul of that team. Anu Solomon had a good game. Nick Wilson had a decent game. But losing Scooby Wright means losing one of the best players in the country, and I think that's going to massively hurt Arizona, and that's why they don't jump any higher in the rankings. Missouri at 21, so not much to say there. They just had a decent showing against, I think it was either Southeast or Southwest Missouri State. Tennessee. Now, Tennessee had a weather delay in the middle of the game. It was definitely a game with Bowling Green that went back and forth until the very end when Tennessee finally broke out, 159-30. Their running game looks extremely impressive. Defense had a little bit of trouble with Bowling Green, but they definitely do have potential, especially on the defensive line. Josh Dobbs looked good. The offense of Tennessee looks fantastic, and looks like Tennessee's definitely getting better. This Oklahoma-Tennessee game this coming weekend looks like it'll be extremely entertaining. Outside of the Michigan State-Oregon game, I think it is going to be the best game of the weekend. Alright, so OU had a good game against Akron. Baker Mayfield looked good. Again, a little bit of a slow start, but they were able to pull it all together in the end. Arkansas had a really good show, or Brandon Allen specifically had a very, very good showing against UTEP. So, especially their defense played really well too. So it looks like it'll be a good year for Arkansas. Ole Miss put up 76 on Tennessee Martin. So it looks like they're not going to miss a beat after losing Bo Wallace. Looks like Laquan Treadwell's back and fully healthy, and Ole Miss looks good to go. Georgia Tech, again, another impressive showing against a FCS school, beating Alcorn State 69-6. Justin Thomas looked very impressive, so did the defense, but again, hard to tell against an FCS school. So Solid start to the season for Georgia Tech. LSU ended up beating McNeese State. Not much to say there. Leonard Fournette had a good show out, but won't really be able to tell with LSU until they go and play Auburn. 13 UCLA. Josh Rosen was extremely impressive in a win over Virginia. It was a little bit closer than you would hope it would be for UCLA. Virginia did lose a lot. Shouldn't have been as close as it was, but UCLA definitely looks like they have a lot of promise. Clemson, good showing again this weekend. Deshaun Watson looked really good. Clemson looks like them and Florida State are definitely going to be the favorites to win the ACC. Notre Dame, extremely impressive win against Texas. I believe it was 30. It was either 31 or 38-3. Texas did not look good at all. Rough day for Tyrone Swoops. Malik Zaire tore it up. Now the one negative thing coming out of it for Notre Dame is Torrin Folston was just announced that he is out for the season. So huge loss for Notre Dame. Their running back had a great year last year. Had a pretty good game against Texas. It's rough for him, but it looks like Malik Zaire is going to be able to carry that team this year. And I think as long as they got Malik Zaire and Will Fuller there, they'll be fine. Florida State looked very impressive. It was Texas State, but still, Everett Golson looked like he didn't skip a beat. Very impressive for Florida State. Looks like even though they did lose a lot, didn't look like it affected them too much. Dalvin Cook had a good game as well. Georgia, Nick Chubb, Keith Marshall both had big games. Grayson Lambert looked good too. Move on to Oregon. Now, Oregon a little bit concerning with their results against Eastern Washington. No concerns with the offensive side of the ball. Vernon Adams looked good. Looked like the Vernon Adams of old, had a really good game. But the defense gave up like 44 to Eastern Washington. I know Eastern Washington's definitely one of the better teams of the FCS, but still, Oregon should not have been giving up that many points to an FCS school. Next one is USC. So USC had a pretty decent show out against Arkansas State on Saturday night. Cody Kessler looked good. Juju Smith looked really good. Defense was impressive as well. There were some concerning things about USC, though. The offense looked stagnant at times. Running game didn't look so hot either, especially to start the game. Picked up a little bit as the game went on, though. Auburn looked like they were pulling away from Louisville at first, but in the end were able to come out with a 7-point victory. Michigan State beat Western Michigan pretty handily. Nothing to really say there. They got a big game coming up against Oregon this weekend in East Lansing. Baylor had a little bit of a slow start against SMU. They were missing Sean Oakman. Ended up pulling away in the end. Seth Russell looked pretty good. Corey Coleman looked good. So did Katie Cannon. TCU, they had a rough game against Minnesota. It was pretty close. I don't think it should have been a 6-point game. Definitely showed that Minnesota will be a good team this year, but at the same time, they had to rely a little bit too heavily on Trevon Boykin, and I think that could get them in trouble a little bit on the road this year. I think they'll be a lot more consistent at home. I think a lot of it, the people aren't considering that TCU just was a lot better on the road, or they're a lot better at home than they are on the road. But it is a little bit concerning for games like OU and Oklahoma State. So, to Alabama. So Alabama was extremely impressive. It was kind of close to start, but Alabama started pulling away. They were pretty much in control against Wisconsin the entire game. Jake Coker looked really good. Derrick Henry looked really impressive. So did Kenyon Drake. Looks like their new receivers, their new receiving core led by O.J. Howard and Calvin Ridley, they look like they won't miss a beat either. Alabama had a very good showing. We're able to stuff Corey Clement, who's supposed to be one of the best running backs in the country. It's hard to tell now, but it looks like Alabama is going to be definitely going to be a hard team to knock off in the SEC. And of course, number 1 Ohio State. They haven't played yet, but I really do think they're going to win pretty handily against Virginia Tech. Looks like they'll be running with both Cardale Jones and J.T. Barrett. The offense might lose a little bit of rhythm, but I think they're going to end up finding a starter in that game. I really don't know who's good. I think it's going to be J.T. Barrett that ends up starting, but Barrett had a little bit of trouble against Ohio State last year, but it was his first. Or he had a little bit of trouble against Virginia Tech last year, but it was his first game. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my top 25 for week 2. Now, if something wild does happen, Virginia Tech ends up beating Ohio State, then obviously I'll change up the rankings a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty much it. See ya.